Hi, good afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. Good morning for those of you out west. Welcome to the Sidonian Company March Virtual Investor Conference. The next company to present is Varex Imaging. With us, we have the CFO, Sam Maheshwari, and the Director of Investor Relations, Chris Belfiore. So this presentation will be a fireside chat. I have a list of questions I'd like to get through, but we may have some time at the end. So if we do have time and you have some questions, you can type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. But let's just start out with the basics. First, welcome. Thank you for presenting, Sam and Chris.
Thank you,
Can you
Jim.
just give us a brief summary to people who maybe aren't as familiar with Varex on what your two main business units are and what you do, what you sell, and who you sell them to?
Sure, sure. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for inviting us. Varex has been in the X-ray business. We provide X-ray components, and we've been in this business for more than 40, 50 years. Um, we are focused on X-ray based imaging, X-ray and X-ray only. We sell our products in two segments. One is medical, and the other one is industrial. In medical, we are generally running around 70% of revenues, and industrial is about 30% of our revenues. We predominantly sell X-ray tubes, X-ray detectors, associated software, and then also some other smaller components that are deployed in the broader X-ray systems. We sell to almost every medical imaging OEM out there in the world. We believe there are roughly 150 of them. And then almost all of them, maybe a few that may not be, but almost all of them are our customers. And we really pride ourselves in having very, very long-term relationships with our customers. With many of these customers, we've been in business ongoing for the last 30, 40 years. So customers like GE, Siemens, Philips, Canon, Hologic, all of these are our customers on the medical imaging side. And then on the industrial side, we sell to companies like OSI Systems, we sell products to Zeiss, we sell products to Thermo Fisher, and a lot of other companies in that space.
Right. The first question I want to ask you is on tariffs, and you've dealt with tariffs since the first Trump administration. Can you just tell us a little bit on what you've done to mitigate the impact of tariffs, and can you talk about where you are now after the recent Supreme Court decision?
Yes. Tariffs went, the IEPA related tariffs went last April. And since then, the first step that we've done is that we've been passing the increased cost of tariffs to our customers. I would say we have been successful at that. We've been passing increased cost to our customers since then. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time because it goes into the inventory and then it rolls through, but that's what we've been doing. But at the same time, we've also continued to push more and more of our what we call local for local manufacturing, in the sense drive more production of our products that are sold in China to our factory in China. Similarly, we have factories in Europe. So we are driving a little bit more production for Europe consumption to our factories in Europe. So that's one thing we have done. We've been developing local supply chain for these factories in different countries. We've also been working on bonded warehouse, etc., some tariff mitigation type of approaches that are allowed under the rules. So that's what we've been doing. And but the biggest benefit has been through passing the prices to our customers. And with the Supreme Court ruling now, these tariff rates have gone down. But the higher tariff rates, Jim, are still in our inventory and they're still rolling through. Um, so it's the lower tariff is definitely a positive for us. It is a directionally a positive phenomenon or event for us. We really like that. It'll help us. It'll help us in the long run once these higher tariff costs from the inventories are rolled through, and it should provide a little bit of benefit to our P&L, maybe in, say, 4 to 5 months.
Okay, yeah, that was my next question is how long do you think it takes to turn that high cost inventory over? So about
Yeah, I would say
quarters?
4 to 6 months.
Okay. All right, and can you just give us an overall description of what the business environment is, especially on the medical side? You know, I know there was an issue with extra inventory in the channel. Is that back to normal levels? And with regard to hospital capital spending, you know, is that back to normal levels as well? And you know, is things keep changing, you know, with this recent geopolitical issues, has that had any impact?
Yeah, yeah. So, from a broader market and demand perspective, some of the things that we look at is discretionary procedure volume and then also the hospital capex environment. And both of those metrics are stable. The hospital capex environment is in a good place. Um, and within that hospital capex environment, we look at certain surveys and we look at what is the priority for imaging in the upcoming 1 year or 2 years for the hospital capex. And generally, imaging is amongst the top three priority areas because it is a very high profit center for the hospitals. So, from that perspective, imaging runs either top or number two or number three. And so it continues to be that way. I just a few days ago I read another survey, and so that the macro demand situation is stable for us. It's stable and growing. Um, then coming back to your question in terms of the recent turbulence and all of that, generally our experience has been that whenever there is any recession or any turbulence, healthcare does reasonably well, and then our business typically does not get that much impacted by some of these turbulences typically. Of course, during COVID, it was a healthcare driven crisis, so we did get impacted. But as we study 2008, 2009 crisis, etc., our revenues weren't really impacted a whole lot because people still fall sick and people still need to go see the doctors, etc. And so, from that perspective, uh, so far we are continuing to see stable to slight growth type of a situation for us. We monitoring order intake rates. Order intake rates have been stable and have been nicely improving. And then your first question actually was around the channel inventory in the channel that we had talked about, that phenomenon being completely behind us almost a year back. And so that is now squarely behind us. We were right on it when we called it out that the inventory, the channel has a bit too much of inventory due to supply chain crises previous to that. So that has pretty much all worked its way through. There was also another issue, Jim, that was going on in China about a year ago when they were auditing their hospitals, and that was dampening the hospital purchase behavior in China. That's also squarely behind us at this time, and we are beginning to see stable to slight improvement in procurement out of China for us for the medical business.
And you talked about some of your big customers, the GEs, the Canons, the Hologics. Are they developing new systems, and are you working with them on those systems? And you know, how's that pipeline look?
Yeah, I would say that's actually a pretty good development in the last couple of years during COVID and for a few years after COVID, that new system development process and steps and velocity that had kind of taken, I would say, one gear down or two gears down, but that has picked up in the last 1 or 2 years, I would say. And that is really good for us because that's when we design our new products into their new systems. And so the activity has improved. We are really excited about it, and our engagement with them has only gotten stronger in the last 1 or 2 years. So we are quite excited about that.
All right, and one of the drivers in the past for you has been the transition from analog to digital on the imaging side, and I assume that's pretty much complete in the United States. But are there other areas of the world where they still use film, where they're still transitioning to digital?
Yeah, so I guess you're referring to the medical detector side, medical
Right.
imaging driven by detectors. Yes, I think Jim, you're right. In US, Western Europe, Japan, etc., that transition is pretty much complete. All of the films are gone, and everywhere they are using digital detectors. But there are still areas where people are using films, particularly, I would say, South Asia. And certain Latin American countries, there is, I would say, BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India. There is some of that still in China and Indonesia, etc. So there are countries with reasonable size of population where film is still a reasonably decent size of overall imaging market, so to say. And we are continuously looking forward to that conversion from film to digital detectors. Yeah.
And was that one of the reasons for the new plant in India? Or, I know that plant it started out making detectors. How is that going? And is that starting to ramp, or the shipments starting to ramp out of India?
Yes, I would say that is one of the factors. There were a number of factors why we decided to go and produce products in India. So, as you know, we are building two factories in India related to radiographic products. One is for tubes, and the other one is for detectors. And the radiography segment is more of a value segment, is a very price sensitive segment of our business in sub-segment of our medical segment, so to say. And, you know, we have very good products in that sub-segment. However, our price was a bit too high compared to our competition out of Asia. So we've been losing a bit of a market share in that sub-segment in the last few years. And so with the help of India manufacturing, with the quality of imaging that our products provide, we anticipate that we would be able to compete very effectively out of our production out of India. And so that we hope to gain our market share back in the medical radiography business. So that's one. And then, secondly, like you just said, in some of these newer areas where more and more digital detector demand will grow in the coming years, they are also somewhat of price sensitive countries or geographies. So it is very important for us to be cognizant of that and have products that these geographies and patient population can actually afford. So that's kind of the reasons why we decided to produce radiographic products out of India.
And that first plant, is that ramped up to, production at this point? Is that running at capacity, or do you still have room to go there?
So the first factory, which is related to radiographic detectors, that factory construction is complete, validation is complete, and we are beginning to sell detectors made out of that factory already. We are selling detectors produced in that factory within India and then also exporting out of India for global radiographic consumption. However, I would not say that that factory is anywhere close to full utilization. It just started. And as you know, in our industry, we have to go through regulatory steps and it takes time. And so it is slowly improving its utilization levels, but it is very, I would say currently its utilization is low, but it is growing. And we are looking forward to more utilization out of there. We are working with our customers to qualify and get new orders and new business, and then feed it through our India factory to grow our top line and then also increase the utilization for that factory. The second factory in India is, I would say, towards the later stages of construction process. So that factory is expected to be completed by the end of this calendar year. So we are about 10 months away from completion on that, 10 months away from completion on that. So that would be something to talk about from a revenue generation perspective with the calendar 27.
Okay. All right. And if we switch over to the industrial side, you've put up very strong numbers the last several quarters there, especially cargo inspection systems. I think you reported about 55 million in sales of a new system that you released in fiscal 2025. What's driving that demand, and do you expect it to continue in fiscal 2026?
Yeah, so we've been selling linear accelerators or components for security inspection business for quite a long time, last 20, 30 years. And then about 18 months ago, we started releasing products and started to solicit business for the full cargo systems. And the reception has been very well by our customers. One thing to keep in mind is because of our previously existing linear accelerator business, all of the end customers know us. Varex brand is very well known. So when we came out with the cargo systems, the full systems, it was very well accepted. And now we are participating in all the tenders. We are winning. Um, and so we booked 55 million in FY25, and we hope we are successful, and we book more in FY26. Now, generally, book to ship timeline in that business is less than 12 months. So, say 6 to 9 months is book to ship. And then from ship to service is about another 18 months or so. So, that's the timeline in that business. I want to make sure, Jim, was that your question, or there was something else within that question that you wanted to ask?
Well, that was part of it. Is really what's driving the demand for those cargo inspection systems.
I see. So yeah, so right now, all the countries or many countries are trying to secure their borders more. Everybody is trying to do a little bit more of inspection on their cargoes that are coming through their ports. So wars and all of these things, they are driving more and more of a need for more safety and security and more inspection on the borders. That's number one. The second one is also the tariff-driven environment where the governments are trying to see, the customs agencies are trying to see what is inside the container and compare it to the manifesto that has been declared by the importer, and making sure everything is right, because different products have different tariff rates. So if you are bringing in hemp and cotton, and if they have different tariff rates, then they want to make sure that the manifesto is being done right. So it is driving more of a need for inspection. And then, based on some studies that we've done or we've looked at, believe it or not, we believe still only 10 to 12% of overall cargo is inspected worldwide. It is not close to 100% at all. So there is still a lot of expansion for inspection opportunities here in this business.
All right. And I know initially when those systems ship, it might not be accretive to margins, but generally when service starts, the service revenue is accretive to margins. So how does that,
Yeah,
how is it going to work for Veris? When do you start getting service revenue on those systems that you're shipping now?
yeah. So generally, service is a very accretive to our gross margins. So generally, industrial overall is accretive to the corporate gross margin, and then the service business from the cargo systems is accretive to the industrial gross margin. So it is at a much higher gross margin. Typically, service begins to accrue after the warranty period is over. So I would say book to ship is 6 to 9 months, and ship to service is about 18 months of installation and warranty time. So that's generally the time frame. So you could say 2 years in total, plus minus a few months from from booking certain business to start having the service business. Uh,
Okay. All right. Can we switch it over to one of the new technologies, something you've been working on, I think, for about 4 or 5 years now, since you completed an acquisition. It's the photon counting technology. What's the main advantage of using that technology?
So there are a number of advantages. So in photon counting, first of all, it is very fast. So with the help of photon counting, we can take 10,000 frames per second type of X-ray based imaging. Now, generally, X-rays used to be a slow imaging technology, but you can see the inside and you can almost make a movie out of it. So that opens up a number of industrial applications, fast moving specimen type of applications. For example, a cereal box, hundreds of cereal boxes, or cereal boxes moving across the finished goods line at a very fast pace. Or also, you can imagine envelopes in a postal sorting center. So many envelopes are getting sorted out, packages, parcels, all of that applications open up. EV batteries, where each cell needs to be inspected. And then in food area where chickens going through the line and they want to make sure there's no metal inside it, or fish where they want to make sure there are no bones inside the fillet. So all of these things can be enabled because of the speed of photon counting, and then with the help of software, you can see if there is something inside it that you don't want. Mascara bottles that the brush is completely straight and it is not hooked or whatever, something like that. So all of those things, they're finding novel ways of applying photon counting technology. So that's driving on the industrial side. Um, then on the medical side, there are a number of benefits. Biggest one is dosage reduction. So you can get a better image with 70% less dosage. So particularly in CT, because in a CT application, the tube rotates around the patient's body and there are many exposures that are taken. So in a CT image situation, the patient goes through a lot of X-ray. There's a lot of dosage of X-rays that's applied to the patient. And so there, photon counting can cut it down by 60, 70%. So that's one. Then secondly, there is material discrimination capability because you are counting in a way every single photon. So basically every single photon that is going through your body, and as it goes through skin versus ligament versus the bone or heavy contrast type of an item, its energy on the other side of whatever it is imaging is different, and it will see that and then it will create an image accordingly. So that is what, in very simple terms, what we call it enables material discrimination. And I'm speaking in a very non-technical, simple manner, Jim. The technical guys can spend hours on this, uh, but whereas in general X-rays, it would just be X-rays, and then on the other hand, all you were looking at is uh, what came out and what didn't come out. Through the bones, stuff won't come out, but so that's how it was being done. So photon counting enables a much higher quality image, which provides a lot more information to the medical practitioner, uh, along with a significant dosage reduction. And it can also do it fast. So, in that way, it is the next generation of technology. Everybody is talking that has a lot of benefits to it. It's just that it is much more costly. So, cost is the only element where it does not score well compared to the existing X ray technology. But on all the other parameters, it does really well.
And as you indicated before with the new factories, it takes a while for things to be adopted on the medical side, approvals and such. What do you think the timeline is now for systems to actually be using this technology to be out in the field?
Yeah, so we have been working. Our R&D teams have been working with two customers and their R&D teams. Uh, Now, with one of them, our work is largely done. They are working on their system side. On the second one, we are in the mid stages, so to say. The first one we expect should be releasing their system in calendar 27, early calendar 27. They generally do not like to share a whole lot of details with us, and we get our revenues when they release their system and when they go into production, because for every one of their system, they would want one of our detector. And these detectors are expensive, in medical space. Generally, we sell components that at the top end are, 75, 80, $100,000 a piece. But these detectors in photon counting CT, that space would be more around $250,000 a piece. So you can see even 20, 30, 40 units can add up very quickly for us in terms of unit count. So we have two customers, and then there are a number of other customers that we are working with in terms of getting to a finish point where they can decide to say that they want to go with us. So that process is also ongoing. And then we've also started to work with other non-CT type of customers to get non-CT medical applications to get our product in non-CT applications as well. But CT is the main driver of growth because that is where the highest value add is from this technology.
Right. And then I want to make sure we get this one in. Since you've joined, Sam, the balance sheet has gotten much, much cleaner. And you had some, I think, some pretty significant news early this week with the refinance.
Yes.
Can
Yeah.
can you just review what you did and what your current debt levels now are and what do you think the impact of that refinancing is?
Yes, thank you very much, Jim. Yeah, that has been a focus area for me. So right now, our total debt is $350 million. And after this financing, I would say our capital structure is very simple and clean. I have one debt, which is a term loan, high yield debt, term loan. It's due, its a tenor is 5 years. We were able to reduce the coupon rate from our previous debt was about 7.875 coupon, and this one we are bringing it down to close to 6%. So pretty significant rate reduction. And as part of this refinancing, we paid down $18 million of debt. So we deleveraged a little bit more as part of refinancing. And then one of the key things that I wanted to make sure that in this refinancing we preserve is an ability to prepay. Right now, we are investing quite a bit in our business, in both in R&D for cargo inspection and photon counting, and then also in India in terms of manufacturing expenses, and then also building these buildings and capital expenditures. So P&L is going through a lot of investments, and the balance sheet is going through, I would say, less than what we target in terms of cash flow conversion. But once these turn around and we begin to generate revenues through these initiatives, we should really improve our operating leverage, our EBITDA margin, gross margin, EBITDA margin, and then also cash flow generation. And it was very important for me to ensure that when that happens, we have the freedom and flexibility to pay down the debt that we have. So in this new refinancing, we have no prepayment penalty.
So it sounds like once these factories are complete and the photon counting systems are out in the field, you should see a jump in free cash flow.
That's the goal. That's the target. That's what we are working towards. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. All right. And then I think we're just about at time. Last question is, when you look out to fiscal 26 and beyond, what are the things that you think are the most exciting, and what do you think the things that are the most concerning?
Yeah, so let's cover the exciting pieces first. On the exciting side, the three things that I talked about: photon counting, cargo inspection, photon counting, and the India initiative. And we are getting, not exactly in the same innings, but in all of these games, we are getting towards the later stage innings. They will get completed and ramp up at different timelines, each one of those. But we are getting towards the finish line, so to say. And so that is really exciting that we turn these around and begin to kind of experience revenue growth and then the operating leverage expansion as a result of these activities. So that's really exciting for me. The go forward. And then I have set up the balance sheet and the capital structure accordingly. So that's exciting for me in the next year or next couple of years. And then in terms of what I'm worried about, I guess I have to say um, the volatility and the uncertainty in the policy environment is something that is very difficult to keep our arms around. That is always something that keeps us up, and I know I'm not the only one, everybody is facing it, but yet whatever the policy is, how it applies to you and what mitigative measures I would need to take on my business is always that my brain is always working on at the seventh gear, and that is always an area of concern or an area of anxiety.
Okay. All right. Well, great. We are at time, so I just want to say thanks again, Chris and Sam, for presenting, and I guess we'll be talking again soon. I mean, it seems like there's always another quarter right around the corner.
Yes, thank you, Jim. Thanks
All
for
right.
support
Thank
and
you.
look forward to talking to you. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks a lot,
Bye-bye.
Jim. Yep, bye.